you check the children?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And you got Jaime and Fuego, yeah.
That's right. Fuego is able to join me today. Very excited
Finally.
about that.
Yeah.
So, guys, we're here to talk about one of the most discussed upcoming horror movies for the last couple of months, if not longer. And it's an A24 film that I think...
Neon, actually.
Oh, thank you for the correction then. Yeah. No, okay. Well, it feels like it could be A24, but fair enough.
Those two are kind of interchangeable with the avant-garde horror
Little
that they
bit,
put out at
little
this
bit, but I appreciate the correction. Thank you for keeping me on
sorry.
task there. No. I look, I will always accept that because I don't want to be ill-informed. So thank you.
Yeah.
But no, so it's a Neon film. Neon, also the other movie coming out later this year, is also being marketed very well. What was the other one called?
I think it's Cuckoo.
Cuckoo, right. So yeah, both of these movies very well marketed, and so I was very excited about it because I also the other thing that everyone kind of knew about it is that Nicolas Cage was going to be playing the bad guy.
Oh yeah.
And I am always game to let Nicolas Cage do his thing for a villain and stuff like that. So we're going to get into our thoughts on this film right now. You know what? I'm going to let you go first on this one, Fuego. So what are your overall thoughts on Longlegs?
Putting me on the spot. Well, I have to preface, first and foremost, that I have really liked Osgood Perkins' 3 previous films. He's the son of Anthony Perkins, who's Norman Bates in Psycho. And
I can remember one. What were the 3 again?
So Blackcoat's Daughter, originally entitled February, which we were both big fans of. Slow Burn, and we had a nice discussion with our contributor
Andrew
on the channel
Mercer,
for many
yeah.
years. Yeah, shout out to Andrew, Mr. Mesa. And so his second movie, which was on Netflix, I don't know if it got as much hype despite having some bigger names in it. Elijah Wood, for instance. It was I Am the Preaching That Lives in the House. It was kind of a haunted home sort of story. But then his third one was probably his biggest budget and most prestigious, and the previous thing he did before this, and that was I think it was called Gretel and Hansel, the one which was the darker reimagining from, I want to say, 1920, something like that.
Right.
It had a chick who played Janeway on one of the Star Trek shows. She was the witch in it. But So yeah, this is his return, man. And I know there's a lot of hype behind it, and I talk about the burden of expectation. I don't even know if that factored so much into this, but I was.
Oh, it did for me.
I was underwhelmed by this movie. I genuinely was. And it wasn't even so much because of the hype and everything, because there is this very visceral marketing campaign virtually with different like websites and I think like phones you could call, phone numbers you could call.
I called it.
Yeah. I purposely stayed away from it. I was trying to go in with a relatively kind of open mind and clean slate and all that different stuff. And I was underwhelmed. That's not to say that I didn't find a lot of merits in it, most notably from the technical standpoint. The cinematography, the production design, the sound design, the score. I thought
sound design was great.
Yeah, Micah Monroe is like kind of slowly become, with a lot of indie genre stuff between Watcher and obviously all the way back to It Follows. She is a name in and of herself, and I'm always interested.
Oh my god, I didn't even put together it was the It Follows girl.
Yeah, man. Whoa. Villains, another one that she did with.
So she's going back to that too, right?
Yeah, yep. They have the They Follow, I think is what they're calling it.
What a great fucking sequel
title. Yeah, and after all these years, right? So I thought she was really good. Nicolas Cage did not work in this movie for me, man. He was borderline silly, and I had some people I was talking to when I was leaving the theater that thought he was supposed to be. I don't think so, man. And there were a couple people next to me chuckling in the theater during some of his line delivery and thinking it was silly. I don't think it was meant to be silly. Sometimes cagey works and sometimes it doesn't. And a lot of other stuff in this movie worked for me, but aspects of the script, most notably in the third act when it got a little bonkers for me, when you get the full reveal about some of the interconnectivity and whatnot. I don't know, man. I was disappointed in this. And that's not to say I didn't enjoy aspects of it, but I was underwhelmed. That was the word that, as I was walking out of the theater, I said to the lady I saw it with, I was like, I was underwhelmed by that, you know? So, yeah. How about you, man?
So here's the issue, right? This is a movie that's going to, I think, divide people more than anyone anticipated because I came this close to making a TikTok yesterday, and I very much wish that I had, where I was going to do a whole thing where I had a note pre-written saying, "Dear friends and family, I don't know what to expect after tomorrow night." You know, like, and I would I was going to have Robert start there and then pull up to me as I like think, and I was going to have like this, you know, sort of deep music as I put, you know, me trying to imagine what life is going to be like after seeing Longlegs tomorrow, you know, like, because all of these reviews were so over the top and everything,
Glowing.
right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so, like, you know, I was going to like poke fun at it, and goddamn do I wish I had, because wow, your voice kept ringing in my mind, man. Burden of Expectations killed this one. You know, and honestly, it's a little sad. And that's not to say I didn't like it, right? It's to say that I didn't enjoy it as much as I was hoping I was going to enjoy it. It's not to say it's a bad movie. I'd give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Like, probably that's 3. Where I land.
3, I think, is what I letterboxed it as when I walked out.
Yeah, so I would go 3.5, but I wouldn't go above that. And you know, but so there's stuff to enjoy, but unfortunately, there was definitely stuff I took issue with. Again, giving overall thoughts, I didn't have the problem with Nicolas Cage's acting. You never know what range of Cage you're going to get. And we definitely got a range of Cage that was, to me, it was kind of like between Mandy and the parents one. That he, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember. Wasn't Selma Blair in him?
Yeah. He and Selma Blair being murderers trying to kill their kids. It was somewhere in between those two movies.
Okay.
And the problem, well, we'll get into the deeper problem, but I did not like the makeup effects because they changed Nick Cage, and there might have been a story-driven reason as to why he looked the way that he did, at least the young version of it. Mm-hmm. I did not like it. The makeup effects took me out of it immediately every time Nicolas Cage was on screen, and they showed his face. They didn't always show his face, but when they did, immediately I was drawn out of it by the look.
Yeah, because there's points where they deliberately cut away, but then we eventually kind of.
There's points where we only see, it's the reverse Wilson from Home Improvement.
Which is in the trailer. Yeah, where he puts the hands on his
eyes. No. I'm saying that the first time we see him, where it's just this to this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that's all we see, and it's like, but I can see why. When I saw the makeup effects, I was like, this is why we don't see his face that often, I would imagine. But anyway, that's my overall thoughts. Like, I agree with you. The execution was really well done. The cinematography, the sound design, the score, all of that was great.
Yeah.
In the acting of everyone, I think was enjoyable. I liked the Cage performance, but it wasn't as original Cage as I was hoping it was going to be. I like when he plays softer, because we don't get that much. Unfortunately, that's not the entirety of his performance in this.
Not at all.
So that's where my issue came in with that. So let's get into the story of it. But if you'll pardon the pun, let's be cagey about it.
Yeah, for sure.
So go ahead.
Yeah, man. So echoing a little, it does take place in the 90s, and we had seen in some of the promotional materials that this took some inspiration from Silence of the Lambs, and it is very much of that ilk. Micah Monroe is a young FBI agent. She has some very specific skills that I don't know if I want to necessarily spoil, because they did not really do anything about those in the trailer. Mm-mm. But she joins up with this dude who I thought, the black dude to Agent Carter, who was kind of like brought her in. I really liked their chemistry a lot. I thought it was really cool. And so he basically brings her on because of her special skill sets for investigating this killer named Longlegs that has been in operation for a couple decades at this particular point. He's got some specifics about who he goes after as far as date of birth, and within X number of days of the 14th and all that different stuff for these particular girls that he's been targeting for a few decades.
There's a little Zodiac to the whole thing.
I was getting big time Zodiac vibes at times too. So you could tell that some of these more renowned sort of psychological thriller, sort of investigational, films over the last couple of couple of decades, obviously. They were drawing some inspiration from this. And Osgood both wrote and directed this himself, and so it wasn't based on any sort of pre-existing material or whatever. But as the story unravels, especially in the third act, when you get to some of the connectivity, that was where the script actually kind of lost me, and I didn't like some of the reveals, most notably. Well,
I know what you're
talking
about.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
third act reveal
Mhm.
that I didn't really jive with either.
Yeah, I didn't care for it, honestly. And so the first 2/3 are kind of along the lines of what I was expecting, and then it kind of elevates itself from just the grounded nature, I think, of the first few the first 2 acts. I guess that's how I'll leave it.
Well, it both elevates and takes a couple. It's like 2 steps forward and 2 steps back. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
At least to me. So I think you covered it well enough. Micah Monroe has a particular insight into the events, and that's kind of explored, which was a nice surprise. I will say that was a nice surprise, because I will always appreciate that angle to a horror film, always, especially when it comes to serial killer films, because I tend to gravitate towards the more fantastical bits of horror, right? The creature features, the ghosts, the demonic and stuff like that. So
same here.
So yeah, I was regardless of that, I was into how the story unfolded to a point. I do think that the story was too slow in its execution. It also wore its influences on its sleeve pretty heavily at times. There was very much a Clarice Starling
big time
aspect to Micah Monroe's character, but I also kind of got the feeling that she was a little bit maybe on the spectrum, like a
little bit
high functioning, autistic sort of.
I can see that. Especially the interaction with Carter's family,
right?
When the little girls come into my room and she's just like,
and maybe that's not the case given everything as it plays out, right? Thinking back on it, maybe not, but that was the vibe I was getting, and so. I appreciated that we were focusing on a character like that. I was like, cool. I like the representation here. But yeah, so the story, I liked that it took the turn that it did, but even the execution of the turn was underwhelming for me.
And I'm there with you, man. I appreciate the fact that they took a swing and tried to deviate from all of the obvious source material they were initially deriving inspiration from and tried to make it more their own in the third act, and yet it didn't so much work for me, and I felt like some of those ideas in the third act were a little half-baked.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to have everything spoon-fed to you, but a lot of it wasn't really explained and developed very well in the third act, and it is 100 minutes, and I honestly feel like you could have maybe lengthened and just I guess expanded on some of that mythology that is revealed in the third act and made it a little more interesting, actually.
Sorry, repeat your point because I talked over you. Sorry.
No, it's good. I think they could have expanded upon the mythology that's revealed in the third act and actually made it a little more interesting, because I felt like they just kind of throw a lot at you and you're just supposed to kind of roll with it and everything. Although I did like in the first 2/3 act the stuff of the whole cat and mouse, and it's stuff we've seen before, obviously, but wanting to get caught and leaving the clues and the specific language that she's able to decipher, and then you figure out a little later why she was able to decipher it. And,
it's so funny how many serial killers end up being kind of super deadly riddlers. You know what I mean? Like...
Yeah. And that's the case in real life, dude. Back when I was doing the Profiling Pain podcast with Chiron's former vocalist, dude, but as we researched a lot of these people, they love toying, they love leaving clues, they want eventually to get caught. There's almost like that charge of, finally leading someone along and them figuring it out as you're, leaving the little breadcrumbs, so to speak. And so, I mean, not the most original in the first 2 acts, but still well executed. And then the third act, when they tried to make it more original, it just didn't jive as much for me with the script. So
Acting wise, we kind of covered, right? I liked everyone. You seem to have liked everyone except Nicolas Cage.
I didn't
in
like
this.
Cage. Yeah, it
Yeah.
just didn't. I mean, well, I guess the look is a little later, but he had kind of a Marilyn Manson look a little bit to me. But that doesn't have any that doesn't have anything to do with his performance. It was like there is one scene of interrogation which you get a bit of in some of the trailers that I thought was where he was the most effective. The rest of the time, it was bordering on like silliness at times, but everyone else I thought was very good, especially Micah Monroe, dude. She is gangster, and in my opinion, I've enjoyed her in pretty much everything that I've seen her in, whether it was Tao, the movie where it was like a living house, almost like a...
I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, that one was good. Villains with Bill Skarsgård, where the tables are turned on them when they have like a home invasion thing going on. That one was good. I mean, Watch Her, where she's in the foreign country in Europe, was good from a couple years ago. She's a terrific actress, man, and you know, I'm down to watch anything that I see her in. And supporting cast, even though there's only a few people. The other two FBI agents I thought were good. The Asian woman, the black dude Agent Carter, I thought was great.
Mm-hmm.
So, the mom,
Yeah.
little hit and missy for me,
Yeah.
you know. But I guess that covers the acting pretty well, I'd say.
No, and I agree with you on basically everyone, to be honest. I just enjoyed Nicolas Cage more than you, although I do have to acknowledge it wasn't the most unique Cage we've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Some people will think so just because of the makeup, but God, the makeup just took me out of it so much. So let's move on. Let's get to the glowing stuff, right? Which was the cinematography, the actual filmmaking of it all. Yeah. Cinematography, sound design, score. All of that was top notch. I particularly noticed the cinematography, and one of the things I particularly noticed was the Sam Raimi car follow shot.
Yeah.
Originated within the woods, right? When the car is going through the woods into the cabin, you see the back. It's like the Grand Theft Auto perspective, right? Where you're up high, but you're following right on the car, and you're moving the exact same pace and the exact same turns down the road as the car. It very much doesn't feel like it's a camera following it. It feels like it's attached to the back of the car somehow. So that was some cool cinematography. And then there was a lot of follow cams.
Yeah, a lot of tracking kind of shots.
As she was walking into crime scenes and stuff, it like really made you kind of feel like you were there with her, like going into the crime scene and experiencing it for the first time. So I do want to your point that you just made, but without getting into the specifics of it, because I don't want to spoil things for people. But in my last trailer reaction, like, the marketing for this movie was great, except for the final trailer. The final trailer shows something, and I noticed it in the trailer reaction, and I pointed it out, and I'm like, this might be the case. And then it ended up being the fucking case. And I'm like,
And now I'm curious because I haven't watched anything beyond, I think, the first trailer, maybe second.
So
this was one where I was trying my damnedest to go in knowing as little as possible, despite being aware of the viral marketing, to really amp up the hype with people in the anticipation and whatnot. But
go back and watch the trailer reaction I just did, the last trailer reaction roundup, and you'll see
the one that's just you.
It was just me. Okay. Yep, that was the last Longlegs trailer, and I do point it out. And you'll know, because it was exactly what happened. And I was like, God damn it. So I don't recommend anyone go back and look at that trailer reaction until you've seen the movie, because I do technically spoil what happens, because I guess it based on what they fucking show. And so, like, I'm like, the marketing's been awesome. Why would you show this? Because the problem is, it was the trailer, and then immediately followed by the video that they posted where it's like, here's Micah Monroe's heartbeat when she first saw Nicolas Cage the first time on set.
Oh, yeah.
And it's her walking into this room, and you hear her heartbeat getting up, and I'm like, oh, it is the room. Oh, fuck. I was right. And so I knew. And so when that whole scene happened, I knew exactly what was going to happen. I was waiting for it to happen. So I'm telling you because you've seen it, so you know what I'm talking about. Okay. I was just waiting for it. And I was like, I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And I was like, oh, there it is. And it was so fucking annoying. Like, I hate when they do trailers like that, because look, we're pretty smart, and there's a lot of pretty smart people out there that watch trailers. You know, we're not your average. The average viewer wouldn't probably put together what I put together. But damn, man, like, be careful of the people like us that are smart enough to put 2 and 2 together. You know what I mean? Anyway, so that's a complete sidetrack.
Yeah, it was beautifully shot, though, man. I mean, there's even a scene later in the film where she kind of awakens at her mother's house, and it was like this cool upside down shot, and the way that they just kind of pulled everything back.
Oh,
and
that was great. Yeah, where it followed. Yeah.
Just delightfully orchestrated, and just the fluidity of all of it. And I mean, from what I was looking at the IMDb, this dude does not have the guy that he worked with on this did not have like an extensive amount of features or anything. So it's not like Osgood had worked with him previously. Trying to see his name here, Andres Arochi. But yeah, he's got some shorts and a little bit of TV work. But yeah, very impressive job. I mean, everything from the technical standpoint for this movie that for me was top notch. And as I was kind of expecting from Osgood, because he is very much one of those guys that anytime he's putting something out at this point, I'm like, I do feel like it's going to have more of an auteur, like avant-garde sort of approach to what he's doing. Yeah. Even if maybe I found some things lacking with the script, so much else, you know, from that technical standpoint was top notch. With the exception of, to segue into the makeup stuff, man. I mean, there's some cool gore. So when we see some gunshots, things of that nature, you know, the effects of that. There's a scene where they're going door to door.
That was awesome.
Which just, you know, took me off guard, and it was so perfectly done as far as just the shock
it's kind of
factor,
it gave us the intro into her special skill as well.
Yes,
and so it hit on a couple of different levels. It was a really well orchestrated moment in the movie.
Yeah, and that's maybe the more frustrating thing about this movie for me, is because I did find so much appreciation for different aspects of it. Yeah. And
you're like, oh, if only like, all of it was that good.
Yeah, if only it could all have correlated, and that's where it feels more so to me like missed opportunity in some cases. But and yeah, the score as well, I thought was interesting. I mean, the T-Rex quote at the very beginning was, you know, kind of poignant.
What was that? Who's T-Rex? Is that someone I should know?
T-Rex is a glam rock band from the 70s and stuff, and they actually played it at the very end in the end credits. Bang a gong.
Oh, that was T-Rex? Okay.
That's T-Rex, yeah. It's a quote
from that. Is that the song they quoted? Okay.
Yep. So they bookended it, interestingly enough.
I thought it was like ringing a bell, but I couldn't figure out what bell it was ringing.
Yeah, Dirty Sweet and You're My Girl.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. No wonder it rang a bell.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
it banged the gong in my head.
Yeah, it did. But even the whole film, just the way it was shot. One thing I've noticed, and this goes all the way back to Blackcoat's Daughter specifically, is that his films do have kind of an eeriness and a very surreal sort of vibe to them. And just being, I'm sure they filmed it in Canada probably. I think I even saw that in the credits as they were rolling. But it takes place in Oregon, and it just had like from the snow-covered opening scene to, you know, it's just the driving through these darkened forest areas to some of these homes and everything. Like I loved the vibe of this movie, just the look and the vibe of it. Agreed. I really was totally sold on it. And so that's why having some of the scripting issues that I did and some of the other gripes and grievances, it almost hits me a little bit harder because I really wanted to like this a lot more.
No, it's like, you're so close. Yeah. You're so close to being amazing. But again, did we mention it? I don't know if I mentioned it before or after we actually started recording. Tons of shades of Silence of the Lambs.
I think we both mentioned it.
The Clarice bit. I did mention it.
Yeah. It derived a lot of inspiration from that. It wore it on its sleeve, as you said earlier, and it really did. And I feel like that's why it was trying to do its own thing so much in the third act, and you know, maintain you know, unique mythology and kind of backstory of motivations for the Longlegs character, and you know what he's been doing. So so I mean, here's the thing, guys, it's a neon shaded mixed bag. You know what I mean? Totally, man. It is.
There's a lot of high points, but man, there's some questionable moments as well. And so as Fuego just said, he summarized it pretty perfectly. Like, we both really wanted to like it, and there was definitely aspects to like, just not all of the aspects that we were hoping would be as good as you know they could be.
Yeah.
So You know, I'm very curious to know what everyone else's thoughts are, though.
Yeah, because I mean, art is subjective, as we both admitted that for years and years, and I'm sure there's going to be people who, are just over the moon for this. We've already seen some, some of our contemporaries and friends and people who review this sort of stuff on the reg and have been doing it for a long ass time, and they're singing its praises. And then I've seen, as you mentioned at the beginning, some other people more in our camp, and the person I saw it with thought it sucked. That was their opinion, and so hey, that's the thing. I mean, everything as far as this sort of genre work hits people in different ways, and so
that's for sure.
Yeah, and once again, Osgood Perkins, man, Oz Perkins is very much of that avant-garde, auteur sort of genre horror filmmaking, and so
that's true.
Check it out if you have any interest, and if you like psychological sort of murder thrillers of this ilk. There's a lot to like. There is just deficiencies that I can't overlook.
I'm sure there's going to be a whole mess of people that are just going to tell us we just didn't get it, right? It's a usual. This
was not a Blackcoat's Daughter thing where there was where it was that much. I don't know. That was much more of a slow burn. I don't know. It's been a while since I've even watched that one, and I really wanted to revisit it, and then I looked, and it's not streaming anywhere. It's only rental, so I would have to spend
really?
Yeah, $4 or $5. It's not on any of the services that I subscribe to, and I have access to pretty much all of them. So, yeah, but
all right, well,
yeah, but I'm curious to hear what everybody has to say. Whether you're more in our camp or whether you're, thinking we're idiots. So,
I'm sure they'll let us know, right?
They most definitely will.
It's the intranet. That's what they're there for, is to let us know when we're wrong.
Truth be told.
But here's the thing: whether we're wrong or not. It's fun to discuss, and opinions are like buttholes, right? Everyone's got one and they stink.
P.U.
So, but I'm still very curious to know what your buttholes sound like as far as opinions go. So, let us know. Let us know in the comments down below, you guys. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you to Fuego for being able to join. Guys, if you're local here. We are going to have a presence at Mad Monster, Arizona. Come and get your items, screen-used items from Dylan's New Nightmare if you're so interested.
Get those Rexes, man.
Yeah, you can get yourself a regular or a damaged Rex. But yeah, come and check us out if you're so inclined. But again, thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do.
Hell yeah.
Till next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird.
And gracias, I've been Jaime and Fuego.
And remember... Stay scared.